Coming up, it was the best of times, it was the soggiest of times.
Flying the Attack Cessna and some bizarre designs that might be flying soon.
And fly to a famous movie set. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment.
Celebrate 20 years with Sonex Aircraft by building and flying your dream. Quick handling, fun, and capable kit aircraft models to suit your flying passions. Get the best performance per dollar with Sonex Aircraft.
This is AOPA Live This Week with Tom Haines and Melissa Rudinger.
Beautiful day, really. It just isn't pretty.
Beautiful but not pretty. Well, what a way to sum up our Missoula fly-in last weekend, the first fly-in of the year. I'm Warren Morningstar. Melissa is a bit under the weather today.
And despite the uncertainties of the weather and Montana's sparse population, Missoula was one of our best attended fly-ins since we started 5 years ago.
We love the AOPA fly-ins. We've been to the last three in the Seattle or the Pacific Northwest, or I have. Yeah. He's first time.
Friday we saw the sun and some 300 aircraft arriving and some 100 campsites set up off the approach end of runway 26. All those folks streaming in despite the forecast for a soggy Saturday. But hey, plenty to do on Friday. Seminars, exhibits, and then...
He's gone away, and yesterday, now I find myself on the mountainside, where the rivers change direction across the Great Divide.
The Friday night Barnstormers party, entertainment, good food, more than 850 folks, and a few surprises too. You might have noticed that DC-3 with a parachute canopy over the nose. She's pretty famous in these parts. This is the aircraft that dropped the smoke jumpers who perished in the Man Gulch fire in 1949. Now the folks in Missoula hope to send her on another historic mission.
We're going to fly this thing to Normandy, and we're going to participate in some historic events. And the idea is that this airplane will represent Montana, the smoke jumpers from Montana, veterans, servicemen, and women, especially those from World War II.
The Museum of Mountain Flying is raising funds to put this DC-3 back into flying condition. They hope it will join the fleet of DC-3s and C-47s in the D-Day squadron that will fly to Normandy next year to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the Normandy invasion that liberated Europe. And as a kickoff to their fundraising campaign, they christened the famous bird with a new name.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce you to the new Miss Montana.
New because the name originally adorned the nose of a B-25 flown by a native son in World War II.
Well, and that really looks like it's going to be a special event. They're going to be led over by Placid Lassie, which we've profiled before.
We did.
And we profiled this airplane in an earlier segment from the Museum of Mountain Flying.
We did, and the thing is, though, that, boy, it's hugely expensive to get these old airplanes ready for a trip like that. So they do have a lot of fundraising to do, and so if you feel like supporting an interesting cause that certainly will be nostalgic and a lot of history there, that would be a good one to support.
Yeah, it will be, but seeing all of those old airplanes over Normandy, and they're going to have paratroopers jumping out of them in uniform and the old round canopies.
Yeah.
It'll be something.
It'll be something to see. I plan to be there.
I hope I'll be there too.
Let's try to make it happen.
Okay. But while Friday was beautiful, Saturday was drenched. But still more than 1,500 folks for breakfast, keeping our volunteer cooks, including Tom here, hopping and innovating.
We don't have any Pam. Spray Pam.
Okay then, well, unwrap lots, we mean lots of butter tabs, and keep on cooking. And while the rain kept most people away from the static display, the exhibit hall and the seminars were filled. Now the volunteers out on the field parked more than 2,300 cars. All in all, nearly 7,000 people for the first AOPA fly-in of 2018. Pretty successful, Tom.
It was. We thought Missoula being kind of not heavily populated, that we wouldn't have a big crowd there. But people came out. They really wanted to come to Montana. It's such a beautiful place.
Yeah, lots of folks who flew in from a long distance, prepared for the weather, and I was amazed at the number of people who drove in.
Yeah, we had obviously people from all over. Good show.
It was impressive.
It was.
Well, you know, we always manage to have some interesting aircraft on display at our fly-ins, and Missoula was no exception. Like this 1928 Model 6000 Travel Air, the oldest one still flying. It was one of 10 Travel Airs flown by the legendary Johnson Flying Service of Missoula. It hauled passengers' freight and dropped smoke jumpers during some 40 years of service. Or how about this gleaming beauty? It was originally purchased in 1956 and then went to Mexico. But there is something unique about this airplane.
It's the very first 182, and its serial number is 00031. Rolled off the assembly line in January of 1956.
Now, John says there's about 3,300 hours of work in the restoration. He wouldn't say how much money. He and his wife fly it strictly VFR to tiny airports around the West, and for every flight, there's at least 2 hours of polishing.
Something we said for polished airplanes, they look great, but I'm glad I don't have to maintain them.
Yeah, me too.
Well, this fly-in also featured 3 fly-outs, one over the Bob Marshall Wilderness and then to the Stonehenge Aviation Museum. Because of the weather, most drove to the Seeley Lake flyout, but the sun came out again on Sunday for the Always flyout, and our own Warren Morningstar flew along.
It was a most interesting gaggle of aircraft that landed at Libby, Montana. Everything from a Pilatus to a Cessna 152. Our 10 aircraft staged first outside Minuteman Aviation at Missoula International, and a briefing on what we could expect.
Right as you come over the top of planes, it's a great time to check and make sure that oil pressures are good, temps are good, everything's running great. It is not wilderness area, but there's no service stations out there.
We get our call signs, line up, and launch.
Hallway 7, Missoula Tower, runway 30, clear for takeoff.
Now, the stationaire in front of my rental Skyhawk XP pulls ahead pretty quickly.
And Always 7, we've lost Always 6, sort of leaving us in the dust.
And the Mooney behind me has to throttle back, but it wasn't a race. And the scenery, incredible. The lead ship, the Pilatus, sends back condition reports.
Yeah, and Always 1 is now 22 miles away. We are at 8.5 and just below the cloud deck. Looks good. Libby looks like the valley is open.
And soon we've all assembled on the ground at Libby. Now, this airport was featured in Steven Spielberg's 1989 movie, Always.
And I can just imagine, being here when all those aircraft were flying around, and just the activity would have been wonderful.
The production company built the wooden control tower. It didn't exist before the movie, and it had to be moved farther away from the runway after production wrapped, FAA rules. And after exploring Libby a little bit, we then overflew Bull Lake. Now, that was the location for this famous shot that opened the movie Always. We're on our way to Sandpoint, Idaho, and the Quest factory, where they build the backcountry Kodiak. And well, Tom, and after we left the Always set, we flew to Sandpoint, Idaho, and the Quest factory. Unfortunately, they wouldn't allow us to take pictures inside the factory, but it is a beautiful place, and they really build a precision airplane.
That's what I understand. It is a very impressive factory there in Idaho.
It is indeed. And I think we also, we had a wonderful time at the factory, at the fly out. Everybody had a great time at the fly-in. And we want to say thanks to all the folks who stopped us to say hello.
We do. An overwhelming number of AOPA Live viewers there. It was fun to say hi to everybody.
It was indeed. So thanks, folks.
Out over the wilds of Montana, GPS is an important navigation tool, with ground-based nav aids being few and far between. And with next-gen aerial navigation everywhere is switching to GPS as the FAA decommissions many of our VORs. And that's why a proposal to launch a high-speed cellular communication system on frequencies adjacent to the GPS spectrum is drawing concern from AOPA and other aviation groups. A joint letter asked the FAA to have a third party conduct testing to ensure that the proposed system won't interfere with GPS. Now, if all this sounds familiar, it's because back in 2012, Light Squared made a similar proposal. And after much pressure from AOPA and others back then, the Federal Communications Commission rejected it, and that put Light Squared into bankruptcy. Now Light Squared has been reborn out of bankruptcy as Legato, which has taken up the proposal, claiming the technology has improved. AOPA says, well, prove it then.
Well, have you done any flight training in the last 12 months? If so, we want to hear from you. The AOPA Flight Training Experience Survey is a way for you to help improve the flight training industry. The information in the survey is used to recognize the best of the best in flight training. If you take the survey, you will also be entered to win a bunch of cool aviation prizes. The survey is up now on our website. And the Flight Training Initiative is just one part of AOPA's You Can Fly program. That's our program to build the pilot community. And you make it work with your donations to the AOPA Foundation. And now we have a challenge. The Ray Foundation is challenging all of you to contribute $1.4 million to the AOPA Foundation. And if we meet the challenge, the Ray Foundation will match it. That's nearly $3 million to help ensure the future of general aviation. The deadline for the match is just 30 days away. Find out how you can donate at the URL there on your screen.
And a group of college students interested in pursuing aviation and space careers are gathered in southern New Mexico this week. They're taking part in the Spaceport America Cup, a competition to build the best rocket. The students built rockets that carry a payload of up to 30,000 feet. The goal to inspire future generations to pursue careers in space exploration. And NASA recently hit a major milestone toward better integrating drones into the National Airspace System. An unmanned NASA aircraft flew into controlled airspace without a chase plane for the first time. The aircraft uses onboard radar, ADS-B, and a variety of other technologies to detect and avoid traffic. The test gives a glimpse into the future of what technology could be used to more fully integrate drones into the National Airspace System. Well, coming up after the break, microjets, they're heading to Reno.
And Tom attacks a scorpion. You're watching AOPA Live this week.
You always knew it was your perfect airplane. Now it can have the perfect panel. Garmin G500 TXI and Garmin G600 TXI, the next generation of flight displays.
And they're off. That's over 50 airplanes flown by female pilots in the Air Race Classic. This year's race kicked off earlier this week from Sweetwater, Texas. From there, the ladies are flying over 2,000 miles across the country to the finish line in Fryeburg, Maine. You can follow the progress of the racers on the Air Race Classic website.
And the Subsonic's personal jet will have a future in air racing. The single-seat jet has been approved to fly at the 2018 National Championship Air Races in Reno, Nevada. The airplane flew on the course for the first time last week at the racing event's Pylon Racing Seminar. Now, you can buy a Subsonics to fly yourself as a quick-build kit. The cost for the full kit is around $100,000.
And Avion Aircraft, known for the Husky, of course, announced updates to the backcountry airplane. The company released the new A1C model with some definite improvements. Biggest change replaces the airplane's bungee elevator trim system with a more traditional tab. Another change is to the front seat, which now tilts forward, making it much easier to get in the back. And for your backcountry comfort, heated front and back seats are now an option. The Husky costs around $300,000. A big honor for Cirrus Aircraft. The company accepted the Collier Trophy at an award presentation at the Ritz-Carlton in D.C. last weekend.
The 2017 Robert G. Collier Trophy is awarded to Cirrus Aircraft for designing, certifying, and entering into service the Vision Jet, the world's first single-engine general aviation personal jet aircraft that advances safety with the whole airframe parachute system. Congratulations, Dale, and congratulations to the whole team.
The Collier Trophy is awarded each year, recognizing the greatest achievements in the air and space industry in the previous year. Congratulations to our friends at Cirrus.
And maybe one of these folks will be up for the Collier sometime in the future. Boeing has announced the finalists in its Go Fly design competition. The 10 Phase 1 finalists submitted designs for single-occupant flying machines that are supposed to be stable and fun to fly. Judges chose from some 600 designs from 33 countries. They'll now move on to Phase 2, where they'll build and test the machines.
When you think of Textron, the parent company for Cessna and Beechcraft, you probably don't think of military attack aircraft. And yet the company designed an airplane for the military that is a far cry from a 172. I recently had the chance to fly this airplane called the Scorpion at Textron's headquarters in Wichita. It's sleek, fast, high-tech, and has general aviation roots. The Textron Scorpion was designed for a variety of military roles, including light attack, intelligence surveillance, and reconnaissance.
Creates a tremendous amount of efficiency in having all of that in one airplane, and also speed of response.
The airplane was designed by Textron to fill a gap in the military fleet.
Airplanes like the A4, the A7, the A6 were all retiring and leaving a vacancy in the middle of that operating area.
The project was funded completely by Textron, no government dollars used. No one has purchased the airplane yet, but it has amazing economic appeal. Many of the parts used in the Scorpion come from Cessna's Citation jets. The engines and avionics, all the way down to the clasps on the cargo doors, come from the CJ line. The CJ parts allow the Scorpion to be much more economical to purchase and operate than most military aircraft. The design is all about flexibility.
There is about on the order of 80 cubic feet of empty space in the belly of the airplane for sensors of your choosing. And then what happens a lot is something comes up that needs a kinetic engagement, and rather than having to try and call somebody else over to take care of that, we bring 6 weapon stations that we can actually bring that to the fight ourselves.
I recently flew the Scorpion at the Textron headquarters in Wichita, Kansas. Prepping for the flight is what you would expect to fly in a military aircraft like this. In flight, the experience feels, well, much more civilian. Not surprisingly, the Scorpion flies, well, about like a Citation. The straight wing makes for a highly stable sensor platform, especially at slow speeds. The Garmin G3000 cockpit, which has become common on business jets, brings a level of navigation and situational awareness unparalleled in similar military airplanes. The Scorpion is no F-16, but hey, it can dash to a scene at 450 knots and be as high as 41,000 feet. And then slow down to loiter at 15,000 feet for more than 4 hours on its stock fuel load. The answer everyone wants to know is, will militaries and other government organizations around the world recognize the value of such an airplane? In the future, will the Scorpion sting the bad guys or the hand that created it? You can read more about the Scorpion in the July Turbine issue of AOPA Pilot Magazine.
Well, I guess we can now start calling you Top Gun Tom.
Okay, I'll take that. The worst things you could call me. It was a fun experience. I guess thanks to Textron Aviation Defense folks for the opportunity. It was my first time flying in an airplane like that had ejection seats, so we had to go through special training on the ejection seats. Also a G-suit, had a head-up display, which I've flown a couple times, but not much. And anyhow, just flying with that canopy was a lot of fun. You felt like you're a real fighter jock in that thing. So
yeah, because you're the boss, you get to fly all the cool stuff.
Okay, I'll take it.
Well, that's going to do it for this week. We'd love to hear what you think about it, about what we're doing here, and if you have any ideas for future stories, you can reach us through email at aopalive@aopa.org.
And now we leave you with some footage taken from the STOL demonstration we had at Missoula. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Here at You Can Fly, our sole mission is to get people flying and keep them flying. Each of our 4 initiatives is designed to reach pilots at a critical point in their journey.
Please don't let general aviation fade away. Support the AOPA Foundation and the You Can Fly program.